Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, it's DMG and welcome back to Blitz, and today we are going to go back to basics today for the map Vineyards. Vineyards has been recently changed, and that is why I waited so long to produce a map review for the map, but now that Wargaming has reintroduced the map in a daytime setting along with some small terrain changes, I can finally go over this map and post the video. Like I said, didn't want to do it before because there's no point in doing it, having them change it, and then having to do the map all over again. Anyways, enough of my blabbering, let's start getting into the actual map review. I consider Vineyards to be one of the maps that's played the same way regardless of whether it is Supremacy or Encounter. One just has a large cap, and the other has 3 smaller caps that tick up on points, and you don't even have to be in them. But regardless, Vineyards is a map that requires the same positioning. Now, if we're just going to go right from this spawn, it's important now that you can cap B. That's one of the most large changes to this map. Before, you could not cap B reliably, but now with the changes to the building layout on top of this hill, you can get right in this corner and cap it very easily. Unless someone gets a very lucky large splashing HE round near you, they're probably not going to touch you. And most people won't shoot what they can't see anyway. So the reason why this didn't work before is that this barrel here, you'd be forced to cap right here on this barrel, and people would shoot through the barrel and pen you. This was essentially the way the original building layout was. This was the best way you could situate yourself to be protected, but even then you could still be penned. However, now you can safely cap the B base. So I would say if you're in a light tank, or something quick and you want to get a quick cap off, this could be an opening play for you, capping the base, because it is a very safe move. And since you have your light tank camo, even when the game has been set further into play, you can get out of here using your light tank camouflage and escape to a safe location. You could do this in a medium tank, however, you don't have the light tank camouflage, nor the base camo rating anyway that a light tank would have, so it may not be in your best interest. Tank destroyers, you do have the base camo rating, but not so much when you're moving, unless you're like an Object 268. But then again, that's just a very, specific one-off kind of tank. Heavy tanks definitely don't try and go into B immediately. So another thing you can do from this spawn is also go into the A area. Now, this is my personal favorite move to do on this map, especially when you have something that can go hull down. Even T-62As to a certain degree can do this, however, with limited effectiveness compared to, say, an M60 or an M48A1 Patton. So out of spawn, we're moving right now. Usually I pop an engine boost and I'm just gunning it right across this area. Sometimes I'll go low like this, sometimes I'll go high, kind of near B, and come to this location here. The reason why I go low is sometimes I don't want to get spotted, but other times I want to spot other people, and if I have the view range and camera rating to do so, as I come over this ridge, I'll be able to see anyone early. However, when I get up to this location, I'm able to spot A. And while you can cap A safely, most people still want to sit in the bush to simultaneously cap the base and get view range on the enemy, or on your team. So what this does is you spot them, and you're in a hull down position and can fire away at their hull if they're tall enough, or their turret, and reset. This is a very good spot for hull down tanks. However, you do have to be aware for people coming on the left should they so choose. However, your team should be lined up all around here, so if they decide to poke in these really open lanes, they're going to get absolutely lit up and destroyed. So it may not be in your best interest, or in their best interest, to poke in those areas. What going to this location also does is it gives you view range into this whole area right here. You can usually see enemies crossing to the town should they decide to go over here. So in mediums and light tanks, and even sometimes heavy tanks that can make it over there in time, you're going to catch other heavy tanks sitting back here, or even the lone tank destroyer that wants to sit there and then decide to go town, right? So you can catch a bunch of tanks off guard here, put in 1 to 2 shots, and immediately set the game in motion. What this also does is that while one of your tanks are capping B, if you can get control over A, you've taken 2 bases to 1 base. And this is why it's so important to make this opening move in this location right here, as it will give you control over 2 bases, the one nearest to your spawn, which is easy pretty much for any crayon-munching, paste-eating tard to get, but this one, it will take a lot more ability. But now that you know that this place exists and that you have to utilize this early game in order to maximize it to its greatest effectiveness, I hope this spot really helps you. I use this all the time. This allows you to get up and get in position easily. Something else you can do, if they start pushing on you hard from on the left, you just drop down right here. And then the only place they'd really be able to hit you is if they make it all the way to the other side of the town. But at that point, the game has developed enough where you can move freely around, and it should not be too much of a problem. But like I said, if you have gun depression in this area, you're really, really good. You know, M60 right here, perfect for putting in shots in around here or even lower on. The LTTB can't even hit this with its 8 degrees of gun depression, but M60 probably might. And you're just working along this kind of raised little angled plane right here. Just working it, using your gun depression, making sure you're penetrating your shots across and keeping everything lit. This makes it really hard for the enemy team to cap A, and will give your team significant map control within the first 30 seconds. So good stuff there. Another thing you can also do is push across through here. This is a haul down area you can use. It's not necessarily the best because sometimes there are tanks sitting in this bush, that bush, all the bush back there, and even sitting right in the cap looking at you. So you need to be able to use your turret very well. Being able to play from your turret is very important in this moment. Being able to isolate targets into I can shoot one tank, but you know, the other 4 tanks staring at me will have a very difficult time doing so. So tanks like the M48A1 Patton are perfect for that location. AMX-50B, not so much. It doesn't really have a turret, right? Even though it does have the gun depression. Not saying that you can't take it over there, but it is just not the most advisable. Other things that you can do, I would never really go in this area around here unless it is a mid-game. I would never go to this area as an opening game move. This place is death for me, and you know, once you get caught over here, it's really hard to get out. If you try to go forward this way, or coming from the other spawn, right? If you try to go forward this way, you know, you're gonna get spotted. And if you keep pushing around here, you know, you're in a very open area and you can't really hide. You can go around these buildings, but at some other point to get away, you have to move out again in front of more open areas, and it's not very safe. So here, I mean, I'd go here if there's tanks to kill over here, but you know, if I had to chase them down in this area, I would, but this is not my opening move. I'd never go here as an opening move. On any spawn, I would never go here as an opening move. It's not tenable to do this, or you won't last very long. It's not having good use of your tank. Do you see all those drifts that I just did? It was like 3 or 4 in a row. That's some serious ability going on right there. Anyways. I believe a big question that you guys will have, and I'll get to very soon when I re-enter the map because there's only 15 seconds left on this one, is that should you go town on this map? Well, when Vineyards was reworked, it was changed so that the sea base is farther back in the town. It used to be right on the edge of the actual Vineyards area and the city area. But now since it's further back, it is much harder to spot tanks capping the base. If you know, a Batchat pre-rework would be able to sit in the base unspotted. Now, you can probably take a medium tank or even a heavy tank and sit in the base all the way back there and cap it without getting... as long as you don't get blinded, you know, you're going to cap the base. So going town is a decent way to just cap a base quickly. But never have all 7 tanks or even the majority of the team go to the town. The town is just a horrible... place to be. Never commit more than 3 tanks to the town area. I'd usually commit 1 or 2. Town is not that good, but I'm going to show you the difference between this between the cap placement on this. So Vineyards in itself is a very campy map, and you want to make it so that you can put the game in your favor. Now originally the base cap was right around here in this area. And you'd get spotted by people sitting at B and at A, and you'd get shot up and killed. And, you know, they'd have bushes and you wouldn't. All you'd have is these buildings. And while these buildings are great, once you poke out, there's no camo boost or anything. No, there's no hull down. You have to side scrape. So unless you're in a mouse or an IS-4, and even IS-4 can be HE'd, you know, it's not a good time. But now that the cap is farther back, you can cap this base effectively with medium tanks and heavy tanks. If you sit even like around here, you can cover yourself with the buildings. A lot more stuff that just simply increases your camouflage rating and allows you to cap the base effectively. Now, what this does is that once you cap C, I wouldn't say it's extremely difficult to take C back, but at least you have something in your favor. So this is not making a play on C is not your primary objective. You know, it's a good way to advance your game state and win, but it's not necessarily the best way to go. I I understand that people want to cap bases early because this is supremacy, but going for C immediately is not the correct move. Getting view range on this map and doing a little bit of damage and just chipping away at them in the beginning is the correct way to play this map. So as I was saying, on this side, going right to this location that I'm going to fire at right now, right there, that's important for you to learn and just use that in hull down positions. Going to this ruins area is okay. It's not an awful spot, but it's not exactly a great spot either. I mean, you can get some shots. You know, if you're sitting around here and in ISU, right, you can put shots in across, but, you know, unless enemies start, you know, feeding through that small little area or funneling through there, it's not really going to happen. And if you keep pushing right here, right, you're more likely to get spotted by enemies trying to push this old town area or sitting in the A cap. So essentially, eventually this ends into a dead end zone. So I would say this ruins area along with that ruined town area is not something viable. Like I said, I go here and chase if I had to, but that would not be my opening play, just to go and sit there and camp and try and whittle them down. It's definitely not what I'd want to do. Let's look at it from the other spawn. Now the other spawn is quite different. You can't take the same effective positions. You can't rush to the enemy cap. You have to be a little bit more careful, but it does provide stronger positions in some areas in its own right. As similar to the original spawn, or the south spawn, the north spawn, you don't go town in any way, shape, or form. Not even the ruined town, not the new town. This one, I wouldn't say it's about camping the spawn, but it's about using bushes effectively. So the first bush I want to show you, it's a typical tank destroyer bush. Granted, it's not as effective as it used to be, but still it is quite good if you want to overlook the middle area. You can go right here and just see what's going on right here. Sometimes enemies will try and poke in this area. Sometimes they'll poke around B, especially if you have like a Waffenträger off Panzervier. This would be perfect for you to sit around here, or some kind of rear-mounted TD. I wonder what that would be, right? Anyway, you could just able to fire at B easily. And while you can't reset B as easily, you know, or you may not even have the opportunity to reset B, the fact that you have all this vision in this area is really helpful. Another thing you can do, which was viable on the old Vineyards, but you know even more now, you can cap this base. Like the B cap, you can sit right here and cap your base quite easily. It's not that difficult to do. Even heavy tanks can fit in here and cap the base. So you can sit there. If you want complete protection, you can go here. If you want a bit of protection and a bit of offensive firepower or capability, right? Or you can go right here, which is even a little bit more dangerous, but it is good in its own right. As you can sit here in a... I featured this in a J Panther 2 replay with Doomy, where he sat here and just farmed away at people. A lot of people don't expect you to use this bush, so it can be quite lethal. Just be aware that if people do decide to flank on your side right here, you are liable to get shot. So this is a little bit difficult position to escape from as compared to this. And yes, it's only a 10 meter difference, but the amount of cover that you can have and the positioning, you know, it's very give and take. Give and take. Do you want your cover or do you want more vision, right? But then again, you're more liable to get pushed from this rock, and it's hard to escape than it is just to simply back up, have that rock right there immediately, and sit like this and wait for them. Or if you have to back down, you can. You know, going from this rock backing up versus this house and backing up, that's at least, you know, 800 hit points right there that you could lose potentially, right? So be careful on what bush you decide to choose. Granted, this bush is not very good for capping unless you have a small tank like an SP-1C or a Batchat that can sit right here like this. Granted, this is not the best example. If I had an SP-1C out, I'd be able to show you this exactly in depth, but I'm sure you guys get the gist of that an SP-1C could fit in this bush quite easily. Anyways, some other things that you can do is you can sit here in an IS-7 or any like an E3 even, just sit right here. This is a slight incline if you haven't noticed, and it allows you to give a hull down position and present a very strong armor profile, and you can rain down fire on enemies trying to push into this location. Granted, sometimes they'll try and push across the bridge too, which allows you to hit shots, but this doesn't happen all too much, and at most you'll get 1 or 2 shots, so it's not necessarily the greatest position, but it can work if you are trying to hold a location well. As I said, ignore the town. It's not that good. Chase them if you have to go there at the end of the game, but that should not be your opening move. If you have to move there through the mid-game just to get distance away from your enemies, okay, do it. But like I said, that's never an opening game move for you. The town, it's pretty much the same thing. You know, don't really go here. I wouldn't commit too many tanks here. Like I said, you can still cap this base. It's the same distance away from the spawn, or excuse me, it's the same distance away from each spawn, so it is viable to cap C from either side. But once you do, you know, sticking around C is not as important as just simply beating them off it, right? Going town is not necessarily the best idea, simply because there's just not enough hull down, there's not enough bushes, and it's just, you're too liable to get spotted. There's just not enough going around to really justify using town as a permanent holdout location to win the game. It's not an end game scenario that you want to find yourself in. I'm going to go one more time, or depending on how the time goes, I'm just going to show off a few more spots for Vineyards that may be helpful, not the least of which, it's actually from the other spawn. The north spawn, and it is quite important regardless of encounter or supremacy. Now, this is only available on the north spawn, the spot that I'm about to show you. Going from this spawn does not work. It does not work on the same side. Oh, I forgot to mention around B, very important right here. 2 bushes that you can use. This one, very easy. You can just sit here. I like to go here a lot of times early game. If I don't feel comfortable going up there, which is quite rare now, but I have used this bush before. You can sit here in tanks like the Borsig that can't really use that front line spot right there and just sit here, hit hard on tanks that are crossing, lots of open lanes for you to use, and if people decide to cross this little gully right, or this little opening right here, you can fire at them. You can poke out just a little bit like this, and you can get view range all around here should tanks decide to poke out and try and cross down. It's very good stuff right there. You can also go in this bush right here, which is also very nice, but granted, if they are on your side like this, around this area, you are liable to get spotted, or more vulnerable. But if they're just sitting in these areas like this around, especially right here, you're going to be really good in terms of your camouflage and just being able to farm away at heavy tanks, or even tank destroyers that have poor view range. However, like I said, yeah, firing from this bush, you may get a double camo boost, as they may not be able to see you. But considering that they get a camo boost as well, you might spot each other. Or if you're in a tank destroyer like the Borsig, you won't get spotted if you're shooting at, let's say, an IS-3 or an IS-6, unless they're running fully kitted, right? But this is a really good location here if you don't feel like playing the front line. Anyways, back to that secret spot that I was going to show you on the north spawn. So right out of the north spawn, this is super important for encounter too, which is something that I'm going to get into. This spot is an encounter spot, and it works in supremacy. So let's say I just started in the spawn. I'm going, and I'm crossing across the water, and I'm going into this location right here. This is the best location you can possibly take for any light tank or heavy tank like an IS-7 or an M103 even, is going around here. Now what this does is you can go up like this, and you have this rock in front of you. So people that are poking around this area, like right in front of me, won't be able to hit you, and you'll be able to turn your turret effectively, put in a shot, and yes, your side is exposed, but it's on you to get back down quickly. Or same thing right here, poke up poke up parallel with the rock, and then see your enemy crossing, fire across, and back down. Now on encounter, this location becomes even more important. And you know, supremacy, it's already important, but in encounter it becomes even more important, as the cap circle is right around here. And you can do this on this side but not on the other, simply because you have this bridge as cover, right? So normally people would be able to shoot you on the other side, but here with this bridge they can't. This allows you to actually simply just cap the base out, and it forces them to rush you. It gives you a great hull down view of the map, and allows you to simply just put in shots effectively against other targets. And in LTTB, right, I can poke like this. If I was in an IS-4, just poke right over like that and have a shot right into that bush should they be there. Or like this, look into that bush right there should they show up, fire a shot across. You can even turn my turret all the way around, or go up slightly, even like this. Fire a shot across and get back down, depending on where they are, of course. And also, if they come through C, because I know people worry about that sometimes, you have a haul down location. So if you just back down like this, and this may require you to actually leave the cap, but that's okay because that means that they're moving and they've been put in check and they've decided to make a move. So this will give you other options and just to simply give you some kind of path to advance your game state. So when they poke around C, you just back down. You can fire away at them. They have to poke their corners and sides, and you can just poke your front and stay hull down. This is a very strong position, and I've actually capped out games on this map from simply sitting here. This is, like I said, this is a very strong position. Now let's look at it from the other side, and I'm going to tell you why it doesn't work. Yes, you have this rock right here, right? But if people from the other spawn decide to go around here, this area, in these lanes, which is quite frequent, right? If you're sitting around this area, you are liable to get shot at. This is not a good area that you want to be in. You have to be all the way over here to provide any kind of cover from the people sitting in the ruins area, right? But even here, this isn't extremely strong in pub batches, although I do think it is decent enough, and you can just poke here and put shots across. I personally rarely ever use this position, but it is decent enough to use in a pinch, right? But you can see the difference in the amount of cover that you have. One has a bridge, one doesn't. So this side is just automatically better to cap out on encounter. So the dynamic, the way this... So I know you're saying, well, this is supremacy. Well, yes, supremacy is different. Supremacy is... Or, I mean, like, they're essentially played the same way. You know, you get each of your respective bases, you try and get C, but the idea is killing tanks, and it's about using these positions to kill tanks, whether it is encounter or supremacy. Now, the dynamic of how it works is, in encounter, is the town. There's nothing good in town if it's encounter, right? Never go town if it's encounter. Town provides nothing for you. You can have one tank flank through the town, maybe in a mid-game or a late-game state, but in an early game, there's no reason to send 7 tanks to town. It's a completely pointless move, and I discourage anyone from doing it. But the dynamic of encounter on this map is, the team on the south spawn has to rush all the way across, or take positions on this hill right here and in these ruins, and rushed here to somehow break the cap before, you know, this team, or before the team on the north spawn gets to the cap and caps it out. That is essentially the main dynamic of this game, or of this map, and people who understand that will win a lot more, because if they start capping, those people know what they're doing in the early game, and if they don't, you know, it's pretty safe to say that you'll have an advantage, as they're not going to pressure the cap, and they're most likely in more open positions. But like I said, I'm going to repeat the dynamic again. You know, the south spawn team has to rush all the way across and try and take this side and demolish any tanks that come across this ruins area, and even try and beat back the people that would be sitting in the A cap if this were supremacy. And the job of the team on the north is to try and cap out the base before the enemy team resets. And, you know, it really sucks to try and push across that open gullet, or this valley area, right? Because, you know, trying to get through this bridge area, you can easily see them coming, turn around, fire a few shots across, and you can really punish people that are trying to reset your base. So that is the dynamic in a nutshell. Encounter, town is stupid, never go there. Supremacy, town has a little bit of use, but it's nothing that I would make a play on early game. Cap your bases, then fight for C. However, the main objective of Vineyards is not about capping bases in any game mode, except encounter from the one spawn, right? So, I hope you understand the dichotomy of how the meta is different on encounter and supremacy for this map. But regardless, it is important to kill tanks. That should be a priority on this map. Anyways, if you enjoyed that content, I hope you give it a like, and if you didn't, please leave your constructive criticism in the comment section. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to share my passion with you today, and I hope to see you next time.